In Spanish, 33 is
33.
Welcome back to Jason Bytes Back, episode number 33. God, I suck at Spanish. Plex is awesome and everything, but if you really want to squeeze the most features out of your Plex media server, you can get a Plex Pass. Now, while there are many benefits to having a Plex Pass versus a free user account, my favorite one is getting early access to new features that Plex has not yet released to the general public. So if you're like me and you want to try out those new features, check out the description down below. Down there you can either purchase a Plex Pass for yourself or a friend, and hey, if you don't have a free account, use my link as well. It helps me out. So check out the description down below to get your Plex Pass today. What's up, YouTube? Jason here with Jason Bytes Back, episode number 33. Yes, I'm randomly trying to learn a little bit of Spanish, but I'm actually just terrible at it. So, Trey it is. If you are not familiar with Jason Bytes Back, it is the video that I do on the first of every single month where I go back through the last month and answer questions. I dedicate this video to my awesome Patreon subscribers, of which I list at the end of this video. So guys, thank you for being Patreon subscribers. If you're on that list, I definitely thank you. And for each new video, I always start by looking at last month's Jason Bytes Back for questions to answer. So if you have questions and you want the best possible chance of being featured in next month's Jason Bytes Back, then post them in this comment section down below. And before we start today's Jason Bytes Back, I am going to be trying a new beer. This is a new section of Jason Bytes Back where I try a beer, and it is only happening because Jeff from Craft Computing recommended Bud Light Seltzer. He says, and I quote him directly on this, Bud Light Seltzer is one of the best beers I have ever put in my mouth. I mean, I personally kind of thought it was a weird thing for him to say publicly, but if Bud Light Seltzer is Jeff from Craft Computing absolute favorite beer, then who am I to argue? So I got all of the Bud Light Seltzer flavors in a variety pack, and tonight is actually Friday the 31st, and I plan on doing like a game stream to Twitch where I'm going to try them all. So it's actually already too late for you guys to witness me trying them all, but at least I can try one in today's video. I mean, it kind of smells a little weird, but overall, not terrible, not terrible. You have to excuse my voice a little bit. Ever since the flu I got in Vegas, I have literally had a cough that just will not go away. So, health is awesome this month. It's a long story. But I'm going to be pouring this beer in my awesome Bud Light orange glass that I have. Just, because it's fancy. And now for the initial taste test of Bud Light Seltzer. I've been waiting a long time for this, ever since Jeff and his co-host Nickelback recommended it as their favorite beer. Oh, God. Oh, God. Woo. I was not prepared for that at all. That is, what in the world? I just literally can't even right now. I'm gonna try that again. I'm gonna try that a little. Let's try a real drink, Okay. Oh, man, seltzer. That's rough. That is rough. There is a chance that is the worst thing I've ever drank. Hands down. And it was all the rage, too. Everyone was talking about it, Yeah, that is an absolute train wreck. Okay. So without further ado, let's jump into the first question, and the first question is from Marcus. He said, very entertaining start to the year, Fruity Pebbles versus Captain Crunch. Well, Marcus, I'm going to go with the assumption that you're talking about the basic Captain Crunch, the OG Captain Crunch, in which case I will choose Fruity Pebbles over OG Captain Crunch. But I can say you are very close to finding out what my absolute favorite cereal is. Pretty close, but still Fruity Pebbles. Next question is from Dr. Akula. Now that the dust has settled a bit, what are your thoughts on VPN providers? Are you still endorsing Nord? I vow to finish this before the end of this because that is a terrible thing to finish. Dr. Akula, that is an excellent question. And the thing about Nord is that, yes, they had a server that got hacked and then like duplicated and like this weird thing that happened with them. But it was really more of their handling than the actual hack itself that was bad. But NordVPN is still a very large VPN provider and they have to be held accountable for their actions, which I say that specifically because there have been actually some YouTubers that have been reached out by random VPN providers and they got hacked, where basically their passwords were stolen and their channel was used for, scam purposes. And while that is kind of a unique experience, the whole point behind that is that, there are scams out there and there are VPN companies out there that you just don't know if they're any good at all and or it can be trusted. Having a company that is actually large enough to take responsibility or be forced to take responsibility for a situation and actually have to maintain their business kind of means something. Because if you have some random, Joe's VPN service and then they can like pop up and then go away and change their name and like disappear, then there's no accountability. Everyone gets all up in arms about companies that can be held responsible because they can be held responsible. All these little tiny companies that just pop up and they're just a temporary name and they scam people and then disappear, well, they can't be held responsible. So it's hard to, get in a big uproar about them. Nord has taken steps in order to resolve it. In fact, they even put out a bounty program for anybody who finds issues with their service, they can report it. So going back to the whole accountability thing, they are taking steps to handle that situation. Now, I'm not actually saying that they handled everything the best possible way, and I 100%, approve of their actions or anything like that. All I'm saying is that they are taking steps and they're still a big name company. But with that said, I have actually been exploring some other options. I actually tried 3 different VPN service providers throughout my little trials, and I had a few goals that I wanted to reach as far as port forwarding, speed, ease of use, things like that, and configuration with an unraid. And like I had a lot of things. I've been trying to find the perfect one that was going to fit all of my needs. And I can tell you that actually the ones I've been testing, and I still have a couple more that I want to test, I haven't actually found something that fits perfectly, that co-aligns with some video ideas that I have. So up until I find a replacement that is actually technically more capable than NordVPN, I will still have NordVPN affiliate links in the description down below. I just bit my tongue. I think that calls for a drink of Bud Light Seltzer. God. Okay, now the smell is horrible. Moving past that, the next question is from Christopher. Moving on to the next question from Christopher. Hi, Jason. Not sure if you're looking at these comments, but I have a question for next Jason Bytes Back. Hey, welcome to the next Jason Bytes Back.
In the recent mini NAS build, you made a regular Ryzen processor in the X570 platform. Does that platform support ECC memory? Internet seems to have conflicting answers. If it does, should you use register unbuffered memory? And if not, what could be the potential drawbacks of running an unraid server without ECC memory?
Well, Christopher, as far as X570, I don't know if the entire platform supports ECC. I think it does vary per motherboard. I know the chips can handle ECC, and the motherboard that I got does handle ECC. I personally went with regular RAM because I planned on running unraid, and as far as I know, running ECC memory in unraid doesn't give you any kind of a significant bonus. If you're running something like FreeNAS, then yes, ECC memory would help you, but if you're running unraid, as far as I know, there's no major benefit to it. Also, on top of that, I erased unraid because it was kind of just for a video and now it runs Windows, so I definitely don't need ECC memory for the stuff that I'm doing. Thank you for your question and thank you for watching. Next question is from Good For You. I don't have an SSD in my server, but my spinning Rust drives are in RAID 10, and there are 4 of them. I'm getting nearly 500 read and writes, about the same as a SATA SSD. Well, good for you. That's good for you, but the thing you have to know about the difference between SSD and hard drive read-write performance is IOPS, or input-output operations per second. So the big difference between an SSD and a hard drive array is going to be the amount of time it takes to find the information, not necessarily how long it takes to transfer said information once it's found. So while you can technically combine hard drives in different RAID configurations and reach near SSD speeds for read and write capacity, you'll never be able to achieve the IOP ability of SSDs. And when you have something like Plex Metadata where you're loading a screen, let's say your movie library, and you're loading a very large quantity of movie posters and it has to list all these on your screen, those little random read and writes that's going on with your server that's pulling all the information and giving it to you as quickly as possible, it's not the raw throughput of the drive that matters. It's how fast it takes to access all these little tiny bits of information. And to be clear here, I'm not saying you cannot run the Plex metadata off of a standard hard drive. You completely can. And with the right configuration, it will probably be fast enough for you. I'm just saying with an SSD, it's much faster and much more responsive. But at least running yours off a RAID 10 does add a little bit of redundancy to your setup. So, you know, give or take, right? Next question is from Matt. He said, when you say Plex metadata on a separate SSD adds redundancy to all the media you have matched in posters of, does this apply if your media content is stored on your SSD that has the Plex server on it? I run Windows 10. Okay. Basically what I was saying is that the metadata, right, or the information that Plex uses to have like the information about movies, the poster arts, things like that. If you store all of that on a RAID, let's say RAID 1 SSD, where you have two SSDs that look like one SSD, but all of the information is copied to both of those SSDs automatically, and they're just viewed as one single drive. If you have something like that set up where you have two SSDs working to back each other up, then you add redundancy to that data. And I'm not talking about the actual movies and TV shows because you store those on larger drives, like hard drives. Instead, I'm talking about the metadata, which is stored on an SSD. And back to what I said before, it's that random read and writes that's going on your Plex media server that requires those faster SSD-like speeds. Having a set of RAID 1 SSDs won't be any difference speed-wise versus having just one SSD. But if one of those SSDs do happen to burn out or give out or just go bad for any reason, you'll have the other one to back it up. And that will allow you to replace the original SSD, copy your data over, and rebuild your RAID 1 array without losing any of your metadata or settings, which is good. And that's where the redundancy comes in. I highly recommend it. Personally, I don't do it, and I should. Like, I should not drink this beer or seltzer. Is it even called beer? I don't even know. Oh. Okay. Next question is from Kamaji. With going over the 30 hard drive limit of Unraid, do you ever think about switching over to FreeNAS? No, not at all. I do not have anything against FreeNAS. I think it is a fantastic operating system and it's free. It is an amazing piece of software. However, when it comes specifically to Plex, there's no way, as far as I know, to use a GPU for hardware accelerated transcoding with FreeNAS. Also, FreeNAS uses all of the hard drives all at the same time, meaning that if you have a file server and you have 30 drives in there or more, every single drive is working all the time if you need to read any data from the array. And yes, I get the whole ZFS and why that might be good. And there's a lot of pros to the way FreeNAS works. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. My personal preference is I have 30 hard drives in my server. And if I just want a couple hard drives working at a time, leaving the other ones completely turned off while they're not being used, unless I have to rebuild something or actually access data off that, I like that better. I don't want all the drives spinning. I don't want all that heat being generated. I don't want all that wear and tear being put on the motors on the drives. In Unraid, if I have a movie file that's buried deep in one of their earlier hard drives and no more data is being written to it, that thing could be turned off for like a month until I do a new parity check, and then turned off for another month until the next parity check. With FreeNAS, they all turn on all the time, always using power, always generating heat, and always stressing those hard drives, possibly causing more damage to the drives or just more wear and tear to the drives. And for me, my personal preference, I prefer the way Unraid works, and really 30 hard drives, I'm at 300 terabytes right now. I am good with that for like a long time. I mean, I still have a lot of data to fill in. So for right now, I think I'm good. Also, Unraid has kind of sort of hinted towards possibly adding multiple arrays with one Unraid install. So there could be moving forward the option to have two, different pools with Unraid. So in the future, if I want to upgrade on what I already have, that might be an option. Next question is from Infinite Extreme. That ending was epic. LOL. What size SSD recommended for metadata 500 gigs or 1 terabyte? Well, Mr. Extreme, it really depends on the size of your library. Let's just say, for example, if you were using thumbnails and you had, I don't know, like 2,000 movies and I don't know, maybe 200 TV shows. It's a very good possibility that you could be using with the 2,000 movies and 200 TV shows anywhere from 150 to 200 gigs worth of SSD space to generate all of those thumbnails and hold all of the Plex metadata. So let's just say for 2,000 movies, you're using 200 gigs. Let's say you have 4,000 movies, right? Then you're using 400 gigs. Now, of course, these numbers are completely arbitrary, but somewhat in the ballpark of what you should expect SSD usage-wise based off your library size. I personally use a 500 gigabyte dedicated Plex SSD right now, and I'm only using about 280 gigs out of the 500. If I had to make a recommendation, I would say 500 gigabytes should last you for quite a while, but if you want to be safe, then go with the terabyte. It's all about how much money you just want to YOLO right out the door, you know what I'm saying? Next question is from Kubity. Dude, you don't make your own cables? It's so easy. I'm a noob. I make my own cables. I can make my own cables. I just don't like to. I mean, you have to separate all the cables out, and I don't have the colors memorized, so I always end up having to look it up, and then you got to shove them through and just, I mean, you have to actually make the cables, and that's a lot harder than just buying a pack of like 25-foot cables, and then, you know, if you need to plug something in, you just go into the box, pull a cable, and just plug it in. Now, when it comes to me actually running cables throughout my house, when it's a very specific long distance run, then yeah, I make my own cables, or I terminate my own ends, or I put, you know, keystone jacks on it, etc. But for the most part, for quick patchwork, I mean, it's convenient. I pay for the convenience. It costs me a little extra. Yeah, I could save a few bucks if I did it myself, but I am a man of convenience. So, you know, I use basic cables. Next question is from the Verminator. Jason, can you tell me /us where you got the wood top desk that you use? I'm looking for something similar that has a nice, thick, sturdy wood top like that. Actually, I had to look this up. I could not find it. When I was actually building this whole studio setup and getting all this set up, I went to Menards, and this was just one of the like pre-made wood slabs that was on the rack. It wasn't on their website at the time. I don't think it was anyway. I checked recently and it's not on there just for this video. However, I did go to Amazon. I just searched for a wood tabletop, and I did see a few different results. And I found one that's very close to this that was a birch tabletop, but that was $400. I'll link it in the description if I remember to do that when I'm editing, but that was $400, and I think this was actually only about $189 at Menards. So what I would recommend that if you are looking for something like this, if you have Menards locally to you or Lowe's or something like that, like go in there and just see if they have pre-made tabletops, because I went in there and I was just looking for it, and the guy was like, oh yeah, I've got a tabletop right there. You have to put a finish on it, which I did, but yeah, looks good. I might change it up though, because when I looked on Amazon, there were like some actually like, you know, pretty cool looking tabletops. So, you know, your question might have sparked a change in tabletop possibly pretty soon. And that's kind of worked. That's weird. I actually think this seltzer makes me more thirsty. Like it's kind of drying my mouth out. Oh man. Next question is from Kermit the Frog. He says, he talks about warranty, but I believe the warranty is voided when you destroyed the casing. This is on a shucking tutorial thing that I made. And well, Kermit the Frog, you may or may not be right. I do want to say, as a little bit of a tease for next week's video, I actually had a hard drive from Western Digital out of one of these shuck casing fell, and I sent it off to Western Digital without the plastic casing. In fact, I just put it in some bubble wrap and sent it to them just bare drive. The drive itself was a little over 3 months old, and it had some, you know, uncorrectable sectors or something like that. It had some smart data errors. So it actually dropped out of unraid in my array, and that's why I noticed it. The drive itself still worked after I reinitialized it and put it back into the array, but I was actually waiting for this opportunity to send a shucked hard drive to Western Digital to see if they would approve it. And I did get a response from Western Digital. I actually don't want to give any spoilers, so I do plan on making a video next week that's going to be basically telling you what Western Digital told me when I sent them to, my hard drive. Man, that was really like rough. I don't want to give away anything, you know, like, so I'm trying to like poker face, you know, like no hints. You just got to see the video. Next question is from, that's it. No more questions. That was the last one. Boom shakalaka. That was, I can't believe I just said that. And I have not finished this. I said I would finish this before the end of this video. It's absolutely just horrendous. It's disgusting. I can't do it. That's gross. Well, guys, again, as always, this video is dedicated to all my Patreon subscribers out there. So if you guys are Patreon subscribers, thank you very much for throwing money at me like a cheap hooker. And your names will be listed at the end of this video. So as always, thank you for watching, like, and subscribe down below, and have yourself a good night.
Oof. Man, I have to finish this. I can't finish this. This is disgusting. It's disgusting. Okay, quick little health update for all of those of you who might care. I went to the doctor, right? I had this, if you guys watched in the video, I had some stuff going on. I did all these kind of tests, and the nuclear test came back completely clean. The sonar thing came back completely clean. They did an extended ECG test, which I have not got the results back, but based off of what happened during the 24 hours I was wearing that monitor, I think that's gonna come back completely clean. I'm now at this point where I had this flu, and I've had this thing going on where it's hard to talk without coughing for, like a month. So now I'm like Googling those symptoms, and, Dr. Google tells me I have like lung cancer or, throat cancer or colon cancer. Basically, if you stub your toe and ask Google why it hurts, they'll tell you you're dying of cancer. So now I'm at this point where I'm just trying to make it through this whole like cardiac thing where I feel, weird in the face and numb in the face and have all these like different symptoms that the doctor says don't exist and possibly is all in my head. I'm just gonna wait it out for like a couple months, see if any bigger symptoms or if I cough up blood or, something else happens. So for right now, I ran these tests, everything came back good. My numbers, it's crazy. My lab numbers, like for my blood test, came back perfect. Everything came back perfect. I am the epiphany of great health, even though I eat like junk and I don't exercise that much. But I am taking steps to change things in my life. Patreon subscribers, the $10 plus Patreon peeps, I've made a major change that is in my life. So I'm also getting some exercise stuff, like exercise machinery that would allow me to basically work out a little bit more completely without, I don't know. I'm kind of a lazy workout person, like the easier the better, which is counterproductive for the whole idea of working out. So I'm trying to take steps to make it as easy as possible so I don't get bored with it, because that's my thing. I get super bored, and working out is really just kind of annoying for me. Other than that, I'm just trying to survive, brah. Ah, God, it's so bad. Do not buy Bud Light Seltzer.